Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of concurrence on House Bill 466. I'd first like to thank Senator Scarnati, Senator Corman, and the 25 other senators that are giving us a chance to send this bill to the governor. This House has, in this chamber, has led on this issue a few times, and so this is a little bit different in the sense that the senators gave us an opportunity to get this to the governor's desk. Mr. Speaker, the reason that I support getting Pennsylvanians out of the booze business is because I'm tired, like many folks in my district, of the liquor system in Pennsylvania trying to mask itself as a free market business. And we hear from the other side of the aisle tonight that one of the solutions is that we should modernize and be more like the private sector. But I remind them of two examples. When the LCB tried to act more like a private business, they spent taxpayer dollars doing it, and it failed miserably. I remind the General Assembly of Table Leaf. That's when the liquor system tried to buy a winery and sell it, and it failed miserably. I remind the General Assembly of the wine kiosk system that the LCB tried to implement and mask itself as a private business and sell wine in a grocery store. They spent over $1 million to do it, and it failed miserably. Instead of trying to implement more modernization and act like a private business, why don't we just do what the other 48 states do and allow the private sector to manage this industry? Instead of saying that we need increased revenues for education and the $80 million we get from the LCB is vital to that, I think the $200 million a year that this bill will allow us to invest in things like education makes more sense. I think the system speaks for itself on why we should get out of it. The complications that our constituents have when they go to a liquor store, they can't stand the inconvenience. In fact, the other side of the aisle tries to say that we have it right. The other 48 states have it wrong. The problem is with that argument is that no one from my district has come back from the other 48 states and say, man, our liquor system is the best. Instead, they actually say our liquor system is broken and we need to be more like the other 48 states. Instead of us trying to find creative excuses of why we shouldn't get out of the business, why don't we just give the public what they want, which is increased convenience, lower prices. And I would like to also respond to some of the other criticism about job loss. The problem with that is we're hearing there's going to be job loss, but then the same folks are talking about that there's going to be hundreds of more establishments. If we're going to have hundreds of more establishments, aren't we going to need employees to work in those establishments? So how is there going to be job loss if the private sector is going to increase venues for people to buy their wine and spirits? Mr. Speaker, if the governor and the other side of the aisle are as serious as we are about funding our schools and increasing revenue, then why in the world would we not get out of the booze business and pass this to the governor? Why do we have to increase taxes as the first option? Mr. Speaker, I cannot ask my constituents to pay a dime, and I don't care what industry they work in, I don't care what they do for a living, I cannot ask them to pay a dime in higher taxes before we do the responsible thing and divest from the Liquor Control Board. And we allow that the private sector do what it's doing across the country. And stop coming up with these excuses of why we should modernize. And yet we worry in the same sense about having a system in place to protect young people from getting booze. We talk about the fact that we need the LCB to enforce this, yet they're the exact same board that is trying to maximize sales. It is a conflict of interest that we've debated on the floor, but there's a tremendous amount of merit to having the same organization try to maximize sales, yet try to control the alcohol consumption from getting into those hands of young folks or to stop people from abusing the product. Let's let the Liquor Control Board do their job, and let's let the private retail market do its job. Let's get out of the booze business. This is the first time this General Assembly, I believe, ever has had the opportunity to send a liquor privatization bill to the governor, and we shouldn't miss that opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.